Okay, good people. I am back. Hopefully, the podcast will grow. I want you guys to follow. Some of my content you may not be happy about. This is a new platform for me, but I'm excited to share. YouTube is not my thing. I like to voice, what I want to say on the go and keep it moving. But I wanted to address the elephant in the room, you guys. Why is it difficult for Black women to be married? Now, I have a lot of different reasons why I think that is. But I want Black women to think about what they speak. Okay, and I say they because I am a Black woman, but I am not speaking these things. As you get older, you get wiser. So you realize that what you speak, you give it power and life. And people may think you're a little crazy, but that's not the case. I have been married, and I was in a hurry because my friends were married. But both times I abstained from having premarital sex, and it made me more desirable to the man. But at the same time, there were other things that I needed to work on, like my humility, submissiveness. So those marriages did not work, and especially because I wasn't kind of done with some other relationships before I got into them. So I was just very immature, so to say the least. But I can understand how I hear the rhetoric. I don't need a man. I don't need a man. I don't need a man. And then people on social media saying, why can't I get a man? You have just spoken your fate. You just told life. I don't say universe because I believe in God. You just told, because the Bible says that power in life and death is in the power of the tongue. So he has the ability to speak things into existence, and so do we. That's why animals and, the other living things don't have the ability to speak, because they don't have the intellect to understand what their words mean, and that it holds a lot of weight. So I'm going to give you an example of me doing this recently. So my youngest daughter, father was having some issues, and he thought I was going to put him on child support, and I wasn't looking to. So he kind of disappeared for the first few months. And what I kept speaking to her. And when I would just talk, and, at first it felt silly, it felt hopeless, because people were just ready to just be done with him, or, that the people I trusted to tell the situation to kind of felt like, I guess I should have been angry. I should be out for vengeance. And I learned from my first situation that wasn't the way to go. So basically, I just was thinking, okay, this isn't the way I want to do it, because I remember being very aggressive with the first child's father. And even though I've been married, I did not conceive kids with my ex-husband. So anyway, that's ironic. So I did try to do it the right way. So I kept saying, I said, Dad, your daddy loves you. He's going to come and see you soon. He's just been a little busy. And I kept saying, by the summer, he's going to be around. By the summer, he's going to be around. And he actually came around before the summer. Okay. And I spoke that thing into existence. And I'm going to start doing that now that I'm listening in other areas of my life. But, some people call it manifesting. I don't like to say that because I feel like it's new age. But I did do that, and it came to pass. It came to pass. Okay? So when you speak, I don't need a man. You're giving life force to that. You're saying, I don't need one. Basically, don't send me one. Are you saying that to the Creator? He's listening. You understand? You're giving your life force to empower, to not put you in that position. So what you need to think about is how you think and who you associate with. Because when we're hanging out with our friends, whether we acknowledge it or not, we want freedom, but we want admiration, and we also want acceptance. So if we want to stay in this certain group, we kind of know how they move. And that's why I realize I don't have a lot of girlfriends, because I meet a lot of black females, but I do have a couple married friends, and they're a lot more consistent with being in my life. And they were more positive about, my youngest child's situation than the ones that were not. But then there was this other woman, she's married, but I think, she was, mad because she thought I wanted him back. I did still love him. I mean, I laid down with this man. I've known him for years. So, of course I do. And society and black culture, black female culture, has said that we're liberated and we don't need, and that's a part of why we are single moms and we are single women. So then when we see other races having relationships that are thriving, we wonder why. We're hanging out with women that have really jazzy, aggressive mouths. They're too liberated to where they're masculine. You get what I'm saying? God created us to be soft and feminine and to need the man. You understand? But we're so hardened that we don't admit that. We don't let the man be the man, And so men are not attracted to masculinity. They're not attracted to masculinity. They're not attracted to you if everything they do, you're cursing them out. There are ways to politely draw boundaries with people without cursing them, without putting them down. And even though men may be, sometimes men can be hard to, convince, but as a woman, you have to be feminine and you have to let God lead them. You have to pray for them. But nobody tells us how to be women. Nobody tells us how to successfully navigate relationships with men. Not just black men, men in general. No one tells us to watch out for red flags. So a part of me had been saying I was going to date outside my race. So I gave that power, right? Met a guy, he was Indian, very attractive guy. He got my number. He said he really liked me. Now, I could have been very naive and just went with that, right? But he wanted me to come over to his house, red flag, that night. Red flag 2. So red flag 1 was you want me to come to your house. Red flag 2 was that you wanted me to come at night. Red flag 3 was that you were asking me, and you were hitting off and we were going to have a lot of fun. And so I asked him, what's your idea of fun? So after we flirted and talked a bit, when I got home, he asked me when was the last time I had sex. We done jumped over a lot of hurdles, a lot of building before you could get to that. So I wanted to go out with him, and based on his work schedule, he couldn't do it. Sweetheart, I blocked him. I'm not going to waste time. I don't care what your race is, because I'm not even, it doesn't even matter. If the package comes packaged, if it's a good package, it doesn't matter how it's wrapped. But you have to grow to know that. So who are you hanging around? If most of the women you hang around are single, you need to reinvent your circle, because you want married friends. So you can see what married women do. So you can see how they behave, successfully married women. Not the married women who are the men. The married women who are the woman in the relationship, who respects their husbands, who allow them to lead. Now, you don't want an abusive person just for the sake of being married, because I did that before. He wasn't physically abusive, but he was emotional abusive, and he was very passive aggressive. And so I couldn't depend on him, for emotional safety. So I kept it moving. You understand? And he actually walked away from the relationship. And anyway, I had to look at my patterns as well. I married him because he was a good guy. I was not that in love with him. I cared about him truly. But, there were some things he expected of me I wasn't willing to do, like change who I was, the way I wear my hair. He just hated that black women wear weave. I have hair and I've worn it, but I do accessorize my hair, and nobody can change that. but I don't have to, wear a flag and declare I don't need men because I, haven't or didn't meet the right man at that time. So if you are single, maybe you have too many children. Maybe you need to work on your body and your health. Maybe you look at trash and you don't develop yourself. And so the music you listen to, the shows you watch, the social media that you watch is supporting this lifestyle and mindset that keeps you single. And I'm not trying to be funny. Men like all kinds of shapes of women. What I'm saying, if you're morbidly obese, if you can't wear something without it being very unshapely, you can work on that. But like for me, I'm working on my attitude. I'm working on being quick to anger. I'm working on giving a little bit mercy. And when I feel like I'm going to go too far, I disengage. Like my youngest child's father, I love him dearly. He's really a good friend of mine. And I've always seen us having more. But I have had to work. Like I've done some damage to this man. I'm pretty sure. And some of us forget that men actually have feelings and they've been hurt as well. So we go into relationships thinking that we can beat them up because we've been beat up. We go into relationships not thinking about, so say for instance, when you act out, you may be acting out from a place of pain. So might a man. Sometimes we're so busy not taking accountability for our own actions. We're laying around. We're having a lot of casual sex. We're having unprotected sex, which leads to, expected pregnancies. And then we're left, thinking that these men should commit. They may not. They may not have planned to commit to you from the beginning. That's real talk. And then we're having children. We're not financially able to sustain them. And then we're beating the men up when they cannot and will not break the bank to support us. That's some hard stuff to swallow. I had my second child knowing that I may not get the support. I prepare for that because I'm not married, and emotionally and financially, I've got to prepare myself because he may choose or choose not to be there. And that's responsible parenting. If you make this decision on your own to go forward with something, you can only pray for the best. You understand? Yes, it's his responsibility, but what was the nature of the relationship? You know what I mean? When you dated a guy and you only wanted money, if he wanted more from you, you didn't want to be tied to him. You would have been irritated, right? So I'm not saying it's right at all. And you have some good men that would step up to the plate regardless. And then when women get mad when they move on, well, they never really wanted a relationship with you in the first place. And you knew you were a booty call. Or maybe you didn't. Maybe you thought it was a relationship. But you knew it was a hit and split. You knew it was like, oh, we hook up when we hook up. But now I'm pregnant. Like, we put really unreasonable. We live in fairy tales. And when our version of it doesn't play out, we're angry at the guy. But we didn't protect ourselves either. And we were afraid to ask him to use a condom because maybe he wouldn't want to have sex with us. He would go have sex with someone else. Let me tell you something. Men, they're going to cheat anyway. Maybe not all of them, but you're running a risk if you're single and this man isn't godly that he's going to sleep around. But he's also testing the waters to see who's the best fit. And what I've learned is that you get more respect when you hold back. When you're too easy, they do not pick up your phone calls. You're not priority because they don't have a chase anymore. They don't have a challenge. And even though men try to get you to do what they want you to do, they secretly want you to not do it. It gives them something to work for. They are very ambitious. And when we make things too easy, they keep moving. And one of the reasons why I think that it's easy for me to date is because I make it difficult for men to just get bored. And some of us are wondering why we can get a relationship and we can't keep it. Well, he wants to meet you for sex, you meet him. You give him a key to your house and he's not your husband or your fiance. He does not help you with any bills, but you are giving him so much access to you, and you're not anything to him. If he were to die, you don't get any insurance, you don't get anything. And so he sees that you disrespect yourself by letting him disrespect you, so the disrespect gets worse because you're putting him before yourself. And then God allows it to go left because you're making him out of a God, and God is a jealous God. And let me tell you the reason I know these things, because I've done them. I've been there. I know people who've been dating guys for 15, 16 years and they still didn't marry them. And the woman says, oh, I'm not in a hurry to get married. You're lying. You're lying to yourself now. You bought into this lie because he's not going to marry you. You're too easy. And there's some pretty women that are easy. And I remember wondering why my second child's father pursues me the way that he does. And I think it's because I have made things difficult. Now, yeah, we do have a child together, but I have more standards. And the thing that I thought he liked girls with really big butts and that are, fair-skinned. And I'm like, but why does he always come back trying to woo me? And I really realized it's because I have some values. It's because, and I hear the way he talks about these women. And I'm like, wow, I thought that their shapes. I remember one of his children's mom, he was like, oh yeah, she, and he doesn't have a lot, you guys, he doesn't have a Brady Bunch, so don't be judging me. But he was like, yeah, I can't be worried about her shape, she sucked. And I'm thinking to myself, like, men are looking at how black women are on social media, in clubs, and wherever else, showing every piece of body that they have. When you dress like that, you're saying, I don't have anything else to offer the world but my assets. And it makes you look nasty. It makes you look sleazy. It makes you look insecure. It makes you look like you have low self-esteem. I don't care how thick your lashes are. I don't care how long your wig is. I like wigs sometimes. I don't care how fit your waist is. When you show a man everything, you are soliciting for thugs to run through and hit it and quit it. But when he gets ready to settle down, he wants a decent, classy woman. And some women are like, oh, I'm a bad bee. Why he with that boring looking chick? Because I remember when me and my child's father reconnected and one of his exes popped up to his house, she was calling me ugly. She was saying all these things. And I remember telling her, because she asked who I was on Instagram, and I said, I'm the love of his life. And she said, she said whatever she said. And then when she popped up, because she noticed he wasn't calling, and I was basically letting her know we're back at it. Anytime we get together, whoever we've been dating, we cut it off. And we have a lot of history. We have more, invested in each other. So he had dated her for 2 years, and I had recently got out of my marriage. Well, I had got out of my marriage, but, I was like, settled, and I had got over the marriage, because right after I got divorced, he came back into my life and I wasn't ready. So I knew I had his heart. And she was talking to me, calling me names and all this crap. And if you don't make her leave, you will never see me on my kid. Just making herself look foolish. And the reason why I did not respond was because it was on him to make a decision. Right? And I think he made the right decision. So fast forward to now, I told him, I want to be treated a certain way. We've had quite some conversations. I told him you were running away for nothing. You were scared. And I just told him, I want to be treated with respect. I want to be treated like I'm a queen. And if you can't do that, you can't have access to me the way that you used to. And I'm feeling the difference. I'm feeling the respect. He answers the phone. He checks on me, what you're doing, how you're doing. And I don't think it's a game. I think he really is interested, because I realized when I give him what he wants, when I gave him what he wanted, it didn't bring us any closer. Now he's wondering if somebody's in the picture, because why am I? Because you know what? The men in your life are wondering why. You may be wondering why you don't stand out because you're not any different. You think if you don't give him none, he's going to get it from somewhere else. But really, if you don't give him any, he's going to wonder why. He may turn the head and say, man, I need to lock her down because I might lose her. And that's what we're hoping for. So I know how to get a husband, but I needed to love. I was still loving my past, and it did cause conflict in my marriage. So I'm doing what is necessary since I had my daughter exercising, trying to eat different. Now, I'm bad about chocolate. Like looking at my faults, looking at things I can do better, and having more self-respect. And I'm going to end with this scenario, you guys, because when you're having casual sex, you feel sleazy and used. I don't care how liberated women can be and we can do what men do. We really can't, and we shouldn't. You understand? Men are the hunters. They make the babies. Like, we can't be laid out, gapped open for every Tom, Dick, and Harry to come through. So this is what got me. I was dating this guy, and I had cut him off for quite some weeks because I was realizing I just had an infant by someone I loved. I don't need to fast forward and try to recruit a stepdad because I'm lying to myself. I don't love this guy. So I cut him off for weeks, and he called and I wouldn't have caught this had I not stopped being intimate with him. So he came by, we went walking, we're holding hands, and then we get back to the house. It's like, oh, let me see the baby, blah, blah, blah. And then, that was your way of trying to get in the space with me. And I told him, no. Period, point blank. Nope. And so that fear of losing people, when you say no, the right guy is going to keep pursuing. But you know what? I learned. And so it wasn't the no that actually got it. It was something else that broke my interest. But I remember feeling disgusted at the fact that he even attempted. And I was like, oh my God. And so during the time of our departure, I actually got closer to God, and it helped me to see like, that isn't even something you want to partake in. You're going to get what you want quicker by being different than most of the men in your life happen to deal with. Don't think you're trying to bust it open better than Taquisha. You're not. She got a booty, you got one. She got some female parts, you do too. Trust me. All it does is make it harder for him to settle down because he doesn't have a challenge. And you're not being one either. You're not being a challenge either because you're just being easy, just like the next one. So I hope this rang true with you. You guys know I like to keep it kosher, but I keep it short. I do want you to comment. I do want you to call. I do want you to email at my email address is Tameka30311 @Yahoo. TOMEKA 30311 @Yahoo. This culture has made women feel that it's okay to act like a man, and it's not. It's not. We're not men. We're not men. So until next time, you guys, I do want to know your perspective and what you think. Unlike social media, you can't like it or, make a comment. So I want you to tell me what you think through an email. Let me know if it enlightened you. And if you want to take a path of coaching with me, I'd love for you to join my coaching class. This has been Tameka. Please be blessed. Bye-bye.